Every chosen one carries the fingerprints of divine editing. Your life has been rewritten not once or twice, but across generations, through the struggles of your ancestors, the lessons of your bloodline, and the quiet whispers of your spirit. What you call pain was actually precision. Every heartbreak was a comma, not a full stop. Every delay was a divine pause to let heaven restructure the sentence of your destiny. You are not a random event in time. You are the refined result of thousands of years of spiritual proofreading. You see, chosen one, God doesn't release a masterpiece without first perfecting every stroke. Your soul was sculpted through ancient seasons of struggle, through battles your lineage couldn't win, through patterns you were born to break. The storms that came to destroy you were simply the hands of the divine editor, trimming what no longer fit your divine narrative. This is why you feel like you've lived lifetimes within one, because your spirit carries the edits of eternity. When you look back at your life, it's easy to feel like you were a mistake that God had to fix. But the truth is, you were never a rough draft, you were always a masterpiece being perfected in motion. Every season of confusion, every night of unanswered prayer was part of your polishing. The divine doesn't discard, it refines. What felt like starting over was really heaven rearranging things to align with your ultimate version. Chosen one, there were people who couldn't stay because they were part of an earlier chapter. There were jobs, relationships, and opportunities that fell apart because they didn't belong in your final storyline. Stop mourning what was never meant to survive the final edit. You're walking into a time when everything you've learned, lost, and lived through will merge into one beautiful narrative of divine fulfillment. You are the finished version, the healed, elevated, and awakened expression of divine intention. Pain has always been the tool heaven uses to reveal what no longer aligns. It's the red ink of the divine editor, highlighting the places where your story needed clarity. You cried not because you were weak, but because something sacred was being rewritten within you. Every time you thought you were breaking, you were actually being realigned with your higher self. You see, chosen one, God doesn't waste pain. The seasons that hurt the most were the same seasons where your purpose was being perfected. That heartbreak refined your empathy. That rejection strengthened your discernment. That delay deepened your patience. Every scar became punctuation in the divine sentence of your destiny, a mark that says, this part was necessary. You were never being punished. You were being proofread by heaven itself. Your ancestors began what you were born to complete. They fought wars you can't remember, cried prayers you didn't hear, and carried dreams they never saw fulfilled, because those dreams were waiting for you. You are the living continuation of a divine legacy. The spiritual DNA within you carries generations of unfinished purpose, and you've been chosen to bring it to completion. Think about it. The battles you face often have roots older than your name. The resistance you feel isn't always personal, sometimes it's ancestral. Heaven chose you because you had the strength to break what others could only bear. You are the redemption of your bloodline, the final paragraph in a story that's been rewritten for centuries. Chosen one, you've often wondered why things took so long, why opportunities slipped away, why doors didn't open when you were ready. But what if heaven wasn't denying you, it was aligning you? Sometimes God holds back the release because the world isn't ready for your final form. A premature release would have led to premature rejection. Divine timing means your purpose must collide with the right environment, energy, and people. You had to mature into the version that could carry what was meant for you. The longer the wait, the greater the unveiling. You're stepping into the now season, where everything that was delayed will arrive without resistance because it's finally time. What was withheld will now be delivered. Sometimes you feel older than your age, like you've lived 1,000 years in a single soul. That's because you have. Chosen ones often carry multi-generational wisdom embedded in their spirit. You know things you were never taught, feel things you can't explain, and perceive truths that others overlook. This is not arrogance, it's ancient memory. You've been here before in many forms, perfecting the same message, refining the same mission. That's why this lifetime feels familiar yet intense, because it's the culmination of everything your soul has learned across time. The world calls it intuition, but heaven calls it remembrance. You're simply remembering who you've always been, the final version of an eternal spirit. You are ancient wisdom, reborn for modern purpose. Chosen one, you've lost people you thought would be lifelong chapters. You've been abandoned mid-sentence, misunderstood during your rewrite, and judged during your transformation. But not everyone is meant to stay in the editing room of your destiny. Some people were only meant to introduce a lesson, not define the plot. When they walked away, it hurt, but it also made space for divine alignment. The wrong people can't handle the process of your perfection because they were attached to your older drafts. They saw your potential but couldn't understand your purpose. Don't take it personally. When God removes someone, it's because their energy no longer fits your final version. You lost them, but you found you. There were times when no one saw your effort, your prayers, or your tears. You were hidden, not forgotten. In silence, heaven was polishing you, building the strength, grace, and humility that would sustain your destiny. The quiet seasons were not punishment, they were preparation. Think of a diamond. Before it shines, it must endure the dark pressure of the earth. You were buried not to be lost, but to be transformed. Every moment of obscurity was heaven's protection, keeping you away from premature exposure. You were being molded privately so you could shine publicly without breaking. Your hidden season was holy. Chosen one, it's easy to feel behind, like everyone else is ahead while you're still catching up. But divine timing doesn't run on human clocks. You're not late. You're in sync with eternity. The reason your path feels slower is because you're carrying something generational, something that requires divine precision. While others sprinted, you were being refined. While others built quickly, you were being built divinely. God doesn't rush masterpieces. He reveals them when the world is ready. You are emerging now because your light is finally aligned with global need. You are on time, eternally on time. The chosen ones don't come to mimic what's been done. They come to manifest what's never been seen. You're not here to recycle the old systems. You're here to reveal the next dimension. That's why you never fit in, why trends bored you, and why comfort never fulfilled you. You were never designed for repetition. You were built for revelation. Your presence itself is a divine announcement that heaven has entered a new chapter. You bring innovation, energy, and truth that awaken others. Don't dim that light to blend in with mediocrity. Stand tall in your uniqueness. That's your divine signature. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs you, the original expression of the Creator's imagination. You are revelation in human form. Chosen one, this isn't your first dance with destiny. You've carried pieces of divine wisdom across realms, across timelines, across countless rebirths of the soul. Every version of you left behind lessons that your present self is now embodying. The fears you overcame, the wisdom you've carried, even the intuition that feels ancient, all of it is proof that your spirit has been rehearsing for this final act. You weren't chosen overnight. You were prepared over lifetimes. Each heartbreak was a spiritual initiation. Each challenge was a sacred refinement. You might not remember every lifetime consciously, but your soul remembers, and that's why you feel drawn to certain places, people, or purposes without explanation. This version of you is the culmination of it all, the divine yes, after 1,000 almosts. You are the one your past selves prayed to become. Isolation has always been one of heaven's most misunderstood tools. You thought you were being abandoned, but really, you were being refined away from the noise. Solitude wasn't punishment, it was a sanctuary where your spirit could realign without interference. In the silence, you heard heaven more clearly. In the emptiness, you rediscovered your essence. Chosen one, isolation teaches you to depend on divine guidance instead of validation. It strips away false identities, temporary attachments, and shallow pursuits. You were hidden to be healed, separated to be strengthened. That's why when you return to the world, you'll carry a peace that no one can steal, because it was born in the silence of divine solitude. You weren't alone, you were being tuned to heaven's frequency. Power without wisdom destroys. That's why you had to wait. The blessings that felt delayed were really being protected until your spirit matured enough to carry them with grace. God wasn't withholding from you. He was waiting for you to grow into the version of yourself who wouldn't misuse what you were praying for. You've been entrusted with influence, gifts, and energy that can shift nations, but heaven never gives divine power to unrefined hearts. The pain, humility, and patience you've learned were not wasted. They were qualifications. You had to lose ego to gain enlightenment. Now, when power flows through you, it doesn't inflate you, it glorifies God through you. The wait was your training for the wait. Many people think transformation means becoming something new. But chosen one, you were never meant to become, you were meant to reveal. What's happening isn't change, it's translation. Heaven is translating your divine essence into human form, allowing the invisible to become visible through you. This is why you've outgrown old habits, old desires, even old friends. You're not changing, you're remembering who you've always been in spirit. Every time you release what no longer fits, your higher self speaks louder. You're no longer trying to prove your worth, you're embodying it. The metamorphosis isn't about addition, it's about revelation. You're not becoming, you're being revealed. Every chosen one faces resistance, not because they're cursed, but because they're crucial. Opposition is heaven's confirmation that your calling carries weight. The more light you carry, the more shadows try to stop it. But each obstacle, each betrayal, each attack only fortified your foundation. You didn't crumble, you calibrated. Think of David, Joseph, or Esther. Every one of them was opposed before being elevated. It's the pressure of adversity that proves authenticity. If no one tried to stop you, your destiny wouldn't be dangerous to darkness. So when enemies rise, smile. It's a sign that your spiritual impact is being felt. Opposition is just heaven's way of saying, you're on the right track. You weren't fighting for survival, you were being forged for strength. Chosen one, your tests were never about punishment, they were about proof. The universe doesn't test you to see if you'll fail, it tests you to show you what you've mastered. Every time you faced rejection, betrayal, or loss, it wasn't to destroy your faith, it was to confirm it. Heaven already knew your strength, you just needed to see it. Each trial revealed a deeper layer of your resilience. Every setback exposed the parts of you that still needed healing. You passed tests others never knew you were taking, spiritual exams disguised as daily struggles. And now that you've graduated from pain, the lessons have turned into wisdom, and wisdom into legacy. You weren't tested to be broken, you were tested to be proven. There's something unmistakably divine about the chosen ones. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. The energy you carry, the calm in your voice, the way you walk through storms with quiet strength, all of it reflects heaven's final touch. You are not random, you are refined. The fingerprints of God are visible in your patience, your kindness, and your unbreakable hope. People may not understand why you glow differently, why your presence brings peace, or why you see through facades so easily. It's because you've been sanctified by experience. You've been in heaven's workshop too long to come out ordinary. When you speak, frequencies shift. When you enter a room, darkness moves. You are walking proof that divine perfection can live in human form. There was a season where you were invisible, unseen, unheard, misunderstood. But chosen one, that season has expired. Heaven is now calling you into visibility, not for validation but for purpose. You've been refined long enough. Now it's time for revelation. What was once hidden in secret will now be displayed for impact. Don't shrink when the spotlight finds you. This is not about ego, it's about assignment. The world needs what you've cultivated in silence, your story, your wisdom, your authenticity. When God reveals you, it's because your visibility carries healing for others. You are no longer a secret, you're a solution. It's your time to shine unapologetically. Every chosen one eventually realizes they weren't out of place, they were the missing piece. The spaces you felt unfit for were incomplete without you. You weren't too much, they were too limited to contain your depth. You were meant to stand out, not blend in. Every environment that rejected you simply wasn't big enough for your purpose. You are the bridge between the old and the new, the final paragraph in a story that was waiting to make sense. Where others see confusion, you bring clarity. Where they see endings, you create beginnings. The reason you never belonged is because you were born to complete what others could only start. You are heaven's final puzzle piece, placed perfectly in divine order. Chosen one, this is your unveiling. After centuries of rewriting, polishing, and refining, heaven is turning in its masterpiece, you. You are the divine manuscript brought to life, the living testimony of what grace, endurance, and faith can create. Every season, every scar, every storm was a line in the poetry of your becoming. No more rewrites, no more waiting rooms. You are walking into the world as the finished version, whole, wise, and awakened. This is not the beginning of your story, it's the publication of your purpose. Let your life be the evidence that heaven writes flawlessly. Walk boldly in your identity because you are the final chapter that generations prayed for. You are the final draft, heaven's masterpiece. This powerful message from Anointed Era reminds every chosen one that they are not a mistake. They are the result of divine perfection. Every trial, delay, and heartbreak was heaven editing your story until it became flawless. You are the final draft, the perfected version heaven waited centuries to release. In this video, you'll discover why your pain was divine proofreading, how your ancestors' prayers live through you, the truth about divine timing and hidden season, the moment heaven reveals its masterpiece, you. Comment below which part of your life feels like a divine rewrite. Share this message with someone who's been through the fire but came out refined. Subscribe to Anointed Era, where destiny meets divine revelation.